That's how much power the states had, and that they control the U.S. Senate. And you're not getting anything through Congress if you don't control the Senate. But since then, they've made them creatures of the Federal Reserve. And that's why they did that. And so I would answer Maddow back, well, why then did we ever have senators at the state level sent by the states? We understand what's happening. They've taken the power from the states to the federal government, now from the federal government to the globalist, and that's what's happening. And so thank God for nullification. We need to have the states stand up for their rightful liberties of the people and cut the head off of the snake.
Pulling the rug out from under them. That's
Absolutely.
The reality. And you know, James Madison was a pretty smart dude. You know, and in Federalist number 45, he said the powers given to the federal government are few and defined, and those left with the states are numerous and indefinite. And those few and defined primarily Article 1, Section 8. And if you look at Clause 3, the Commerce Clause is the one that they twist over
And if people
and
don't
over
like
and
it,
over.
they don't like America.
Well, you know, you hate America if you want the freedom to choose the size of your toilet, or what plant you can grow in your backyard and consume, or if you don't want to go overseas and kill millions of brown people for the elites in Washington, D.C. You hate America and you hate freedom. Well, the reality is it's really the other way around, and I think more and more people on the grassroots are getting sick and tired of it, and that's why this idea, they don't want us to talk about nullification. We're doing it anyway.
Well, tell us short and sweet for new listeners or viewers, what is nullification and what's its progress right now?
Nullification is the idea that when the federal government passes a law, which is really no law at all, it's a usurpation of power. When they pass a law that's a violation of the Constitution, it's your duty in your state to do something, whether to pass a particular piece of legislation, to reject, to say it's null and void, it's of no effect, to prevent its enforcement in your state. And it has a lot of progress right now. People are really waking up to this idea. There are 15 states that are defying Congress and the Supreme Court on medical marijuana. They say that we can't have a plant in our backyard and grow it and consume it. Well, we're doing it anyways. There's 25 states that have rejected the Bush-era Real ID Act. And, you know, they keep having to, push it off and push it off and push it off.
Hundreds of cities are rejecting the Patriot Act.
Absolutely. That's the same concept. We can even go down to a local level. There's been 8 states that have passed a Firearms Freedom Act that say that if you make a gun in your state and you sell it in your state, federal government, get the hell out of here. You can't do that. Absolutely, and just passed, like Stewart said, just passed in Utah, a sound money bill. The 10th Amendment Center also authors legislation. We have a Federal Health Care Nullification Act to reject not just Obamacare mandates, but the entire idea that the federal government should be involved in health care at all.
And by the way, I want to ask both of you this. And viewers out there, how discredited is Obamacare? Written by the insurance companies to force 35 million people to buy an overpriced product, allows the insurance companies to start telling doctors what they can and can't do to reduce their cost. And now thousands of major companies like McDonald's are given waivers to not have to buy it. Stewart, I don't have to be a lawyer to know this, but you're a constitutional lawyer. Is that not true discrimination? We always think of discrimination, black, white, or things like that. What about economic discrimination? That if you're a government insider or you give money to the Democratic Party, or when the Republicans are in power to their party, you get a waiver. You don't have to buy this insurance, but the hamburger place next to McDonald's that's owned by, the Rhodes or the Johnsons or the Sanchez's, they've got to go and buy the insurance. I mean, that's incredible.
Well, it is, but unfortunately, the courts have not found things like that to be unconstitutional, as corrupt as they may be. But at least one federal judge did realize that compelling you to go buy insurance is unprecedented. They're not just saying you can't do something like law usually does. It's saying you must go do something. So even a federal judge, as indoctrinated as they are to believe in expanded power of the state, couldn't swallow that.
Well, that's like the Soviets. They would say, every week on these hours, you've got to come help dig ditches on top of all your other jobs.
Yeah.
And just like we see now in Chicago, parents can't pack their kids' lunches, and they say you can't be trusted. So, I mean, we are literally becoming complete vassals.
Right. Nothing that we don't let you do, you're allowed to do, and all the things that we say that you should do, you must do. So they're flipping on its head the idea of freedom.
But I think they're rushing so hard in this power grab that it's doing the opposite. It's accelerating an awakening. So then the control freaks, the statists push even harder for more control, and then that only accelerates our awakening. And then they get even more panicked and more brazen and more naked. Finish up with where this movement's going. You were already breaking it down. It's very exciting.
It's endless. It's not left versus right. It's us versus them, as you know. course, they want to keep us in this box. And while we keep fighting against each other, they keep taking more money and more power for their friends, for the General Electric types, for the war profiteers. But the reality is we're trying to reject the TSA. We're trying to reject the Patriot Act. We're working on nullifying national health care. We're working on nullifying the use of our state's guard troops overseas to occupy foreign countries. And there's bills introduced all over the country to do this. Some of them are already passing, as we've seen success in issues like marijuana and the Real ID Act, and we can
And it's a process. The states are now rediscovering their power.
They're learning about it. You know, what's happened over the last few years, more and more state reps are contacting us saying, well, what do we do about, I don't know, constitutional tender, or we want to grow hemp in Kentucky? Well, write a bill, or we'll provide you. We have tons of them at 10thamendmentcenter.com for all kinds of different issues. We'll provide you a bill to introduce in your state, pass it, say we're not going to allow federal agents to stop our farmers from growing hemp, and if they try to, we're going to arrest them and put them in jail. And that's what we're seeing all across the country.
And we see Texas saying
the TSA.
Well, not just TSA, that they'll start arresting these TSA agents when they molest people, but Texas is saying we're going to keep our coal-powered power plants.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, because Obama couldn't even get Congress, much less Commerce Clause. He couldn't even get Congress to pass a law to do it, so he ordered his executive branch minions, the bureaucrats, to do it, and Texas is fighting that. I mean, I see it every day in the news. The fight is on. It's exciting, and the bushfires in the minds of men are being lit by people like both of you gentlemen. Any closing comments on this subject?
Alex, we need your help. You have been out in the forefront reporting on this state sovereignty and nullification movement, and we need you to keep pushing it, because every time you talk about it, every time you interview someone like Charles Key or Randy Brogdon or Sam Rohrer or Matt Shea or Susan Lynn or all the number of great state reps that you've had on over the last few years, we get so much contact over at 10thamendmentcenter.com, son. We want to know what we can do to support these state legislators.
Bottom line, the patriots are getting organized. The system is scared because they know that we found one of their major weak spots.
And they're jumping the shark in reaction. Whenever they start labeling someone who is simply growing a pot plant in their backyard as an enemy, or labeling von Nothaus, who simply had sound money in his pocket, as a terrorist. Things like this, labeling veterans, returning veterans as suspected terrorists.
It lets everybody know we were right. This whole Patriot Act's for us. This is a tyranny.
And they wake other people up. And it becomes so absurd and so ridiculous. Like I said, they're jumping the shark. They're going such an absurd length. They have to, because all we're doing is defending what's really constitutional.
They're absurd tyrants, and so now the absurdity of them defending what they're doing is becoming Kafkaesque. I mean, it's beyond 1984. In so many respects. I mean, the White House comes out this week and says, yeah, we're going to hold your passcodes for your computer and your bank account. We're going to watch everything you do. And even mainstream media universally said this is absolute police state.
And they think they're going to be able to chill our speech. They think Americans will cower in fear, but the exact opposite has happened.
Truth is, Americans have just been decadent and lazy. Once Americans get roused, they're ready for a fight.
Right. And the more
all they're doing is waking up the sleeping giant.
That's exactly right. They're swelling our ranks. They're showing the truth, what we've been saying for years, what you've been saying for a long time, and they're demonstrating it. They're saying, like you said earlier, they're showing that it's all actually true. And they think they can say, well, yes, and we're going to do this, this, and this to you if you do.
And this guy put out silver coins. He's arrested. He's a terrorist. And marijuana's terrorism. And we got blimps watching. And yeah, we're listening to you. But it's not a police state. But you said 5 years ago you weren't spying without warrants. Shut up, conspiracy theorist.
But it's not going to work. It's not going to suppress us.
By the way, in that article I had earlier when you were on the radio with me, in that story where they have the Commerce Secretary and they've got the Cato Institute and all these big groups saying this is a total power grab, takeover, internet ID, internet kill switch, it's all in the White House announcement. The Commerce Secretary came out and said, you're a conspiracy theorist. They never intellectually debate us. They just have a throwaway line of, well, yes, you'll have a government-issued ID to do anything on the internet, but you're a conspiracy theorist. It doesn't work anymore.
No, it doesn't.
The website for the 10th Amendment Center is 10thamendmentcenter.com, obviously. Oathkeepers, oathkeepers.org. And I want to thank you, Michael Boldin, for joining us. Now we're going to bring in Brandon Smith.
Thank you so much, Alex.
Thank you so much. We'll be right back. Well, Stewart, why don't you introduce our next guest?
Well, this is Brandon Smith, and he did write under the pen name Giordano Bruno. on economics. And
We've posted some of your stuff at Infowars.
You have for a couple years now.
Yeah.
very good stuff. And so when I saw him, I could tell he was a person of sincere belief in freedom and consistent. And I approached him with the idea of starting a movement, a grassroots movement, to get people to decouple from the fiat system, to unplug from the matrix. So I kind of lit a fire into him to start the Alternate Market Project, and now we're doing it.